Hello, welcome to Rando Tech Info. So today we're talking about the Asus ZenFone 8 and the 8 Flip. Now, of the two phones, Asus is definitely marketing the base ZenFone 8 as the flagship phone, even though it's smaller and cheaper, but it's definitely the better spec phone, whereas the Flip is bigger and more expensive. Its specs are not as good, and it's really being marketed as more of a niche device. Further complicating things is the Flip is really what the ZenFone 7 was last year. There was really no base model. All the phones were flips, but they weren't called flips. Tons of people have talked about this on YouTube already and in different reviews across the interwebs. Feel free to go check those out to get more information about both of these phones. The purpose of this video is just to talk about whether or not these phones will work here in the US. And remember, in order for a phone to work reliably here in the US, it must meet two criteria. One, it must be certified to work on the network you want to use it on. Otherwise, it may not be able to be activated and it may not be able to utilize the antennas built into the hardware of the phone. And two, it has to have the right hardware to utilize the frequency bands that your carrier uses. So first, let's get the bad news out of the way. Let's talk about the Flip. The Flip is not going to be sold here in the US. Therefore, it's not going to be certified by any of the carriers to work on their networks. This is because in order for a phone to work on a carrier's network, they have to pay that network carrier to have the phone certified. And obviously, if Asus has no plans on selling the phone here, they're not going to pay T-Mobile, AT&T, or Verizon money to ensure that the phone works on their networks. As far as hardware goes, on Verizon, the phone is not compatible to work on Verizon's network. Asus has said this about the base ZenFone 8, that it will not work on Verizon, so the Flip is not going to work either. As far as AT&T is concerned, it does use 5 out of 7 of the frequency bands AT&T uses on their 4G network, and it does utilize all of AT&T's major 4G frequency bands. So if you can get AT&T to activate this phone on their network, you might get some pretty decent 4G coverage. You will probably not get any 5G coverage, however, because the way AT&T certification process works is phones that are not certified on AT&T can't utilize their 5G network. So you might get some 4G if you can get them activated, but the 5G is probably a no-go. As far as T-Mobile is concerned, it utilizes 4 out of 6 of their 4G bands and their major bands, so you might get some decent 4G coverage, but it does not utilize any of their 5G bands, so you definitely will not get any 5G with T-Mobile. Fortunately, the news about the base ZenFone 8 is much better, at least if you're not on Verizon. So the phone will be sold here in the US. So you will be able to purchase it, and for some reason, if the phone doesn't work well here in the US, because you're able to purchase it directly from Asus, you should be able to return it. Now, if you're on Verizon, the phone's probably not going to work. It's not certified to work on Verizon. Asus says, as I said before, it's not compatible to be used on their network, so probably a no-go there. So before I get in the weeds about AT&T and T-Mobile with this phone, I do want to talk about the fact that on Asus's website, there's an A version of this phone and a B version of this phone. This is not entirely unique. We've seen this with different phones before. If Asus asks you when you're checking out which version of the phone you want, you definitely want the B version, whether you're on AT&T or T-Mobile. It utilizes a lot more of the frequency bands that those carriers use. Now, it's possible sometimes that process is automated. Asus will automatically send you the better phone once they know what network you're on. They may not even ask you which version of the phone you want, but if they ask, you want version B. Now, getting back to the frequency bands on AT&T, you're in really good shape. It utilizes 7 out of 7 of the 4G bands that AT&T currently uses, so you're good to go there. It utilizes AT&T's sub-6 5G, so you're definitely good to go there. The phone does not utilize any millimeter wave 5G, so that's a no-go, but I don't really think that's a big deal. Millimeter wave does not have a big enough footprint in this country right now to matter, so you're in good shape as far as coverage goes on AT&T. And it's the same news for T-Mobile. It utilizes all 6 of T-Mobile's 4G frequency bands, and once again, it utilizes their sub-6 5G frequency bands. It does not utilize their mid-band 5G, which is a little bit of a bummer, but you do get some 5G functionality with this phone. So overall, if you're on AT&T or T-Mobile, the news with the base ZenFone 8 is pretty good. And last but not least, while we're speaking about good news, what would be excellent news for me would be if you sub to this channel.
Smooth.
Well, that's all the information I have today about the ZenFone 8 and the ZenFone 8 Flip. If you do wind up picking up one of these phones, please come back, Let us know down in the comments what carrier you're on and how well that phone works for you, so we can all learn from each other and make smarter buying decisions. As always, I hope you found this video useful. Thanks for watching, and until next time, this is Rando Tech Info, signing out.